Welcome back, everyone, to another plate stack chat. As soon as we went live, my watch just blew up with a notification that plate stack chat had just gone live. So I just got distracted, everyone. Sorry. I distracted myself with a notification. But yes, here we are. Me, of course, Jason, and joined by Sam LaRoche. Unfortunately, Tom is not with us this week as a combination of a not very well child, teething, and again, ridiculously hot temperatures in the UK. Twice in 1 year. Who knew it was possible? Who knew it was possible? But that's, I mean, the weather they had at the games and then the weather we've got here. What is going on?
Craziness.
But of course, that's what we're going to talk about today is the CrossFit Games.
The weather
just ended. Yeah, the weather. Well, we'll definitely be talking about the weather at some point as well. But yeah, we'll talk about the recently finished CrossFit Games. Sorry, the Noble CrossFit Games. Better make sure we get that in there. Yeah, and and I think a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with that. I've had some comments sent to me as well in general, so that's nice. We might get into some of them. Yash preemptively got in the comment section on this video, telling us that he's painting fences today, but he'll be listening in the background, and he's also shared his favorite events, so we'll come back to that in a minute as well. But first of all, like first impressions of the games.
Are we opening up now?
Am I allowed to talk now? The other person here, Sam. So.
Okay. First impressions of the game.
Tom, from home, if you could just text me your first impressions of the games, please.
First impressions of the games. The inevitable happened, I think, in all three categories. So that's pretty.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Standard.
I don't know if I would say all three were inevitable. Okay. I mean, yeah.
What was not inevitable about the three categories?
I don't
Mayhem winning, Tia winning, and Justin winning.
I would say Justin was the not inevitable.
Scott's going in the comments. Sam needs coffee. No, Sam has actually just been playing an hour's worth of football, as we call it in the UK, soccer, as you call it in the US. Gosh, but if there were a time when I ever needed coffee, now is definitely it. You have much insight there.
Is Scott still in Madison? Scott, are you still in Madison, or have you travelled back now? And should we be sending you a link to finally get you on the show? That's the questions that I need answered.
Yeah. But why was it not inevitable then, Jay? Why the inevitable happened as far as I'm concerned? Tia won, Justin won, and Mayhem won.
Yeah. Oh, I mean they won. That's true. But I mean it wasn't, particularly in Justin's case, it was not. I don't think it was a sure thing, as to the degree that Mayhem and Amy and Scott are on the road, live from the car. I think Justin had a good shot. Like he had the odds were in his favor, but not in the same way that they were for Tia. And to the fact that like Tia had already got it wrapped up before even doing the final event. Amy's driving and needed a distraction. Well, great to know that we're a distraction for people.
I'll take it. It's a listener. It's two listeners, but it only counts as one. So you have to go listen again somewhere else.
Well, yeah. Well, can you just log in with another device, please? The gap has closed.
Claire's in the comments. The gap has closed. Well, but do I agree with that? I think we're going to talk about this a bit later, but I think the programming, and I was talking about this with a couple of people throughout the weekend on Instagram. The programming was such that it was quite endurance based to start. I would have said, which I mean, if that closes the gap. So, for example, someone like Roman Krenikov would always have done well with the programming that we had, because it was, generally speaking, it was endurance and it was strength. Like he didn't do very well in the, he didn't do very well in the gymnastic event.
Oh, because I think my only.
But
So
that was I'd say that was an outlier, really.
yeah, well, that was a really. We will definitely will come back to that. Okay, first of all, so you said the inevitable happened. Did you enjoy the CrossFit Games?
Oh mate, I loved it. I did really enjoy it.
Okay,
So that from being inevitable, that was inevitable. Well, that wasn't inevitable because I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it with all the noble rubbish and stuff beforehand, and like just general crap
yeah.
beforehand.
Well, I think and the reason I think that when you say like when people are saying in the comments like the gap is closing and the fact that I don't think it was inevitable, I think the fact that we weren't seeing the people that like you're saying it's it's inevitable, and after the first event we didn't have Tia in the lead, we didn't have Justin in the lead, and we didn't have Mayhem in the lead. So like immediately going in, you're like, oh, hold on, maybe things aren't as inevitable as we see. And then even at the end of the first day, not those people weren't all in the lead. Even the second day, some weren't in the lead. Do you know what I mean? Like there seemed more possibility that things could be shaken up a bit, and that was enjoyable. It was a more interesting race to watch. It wasn't,
Yeah,
it wasn't just a
that
battle
certainly
for
made it
second
more
place.
watchable. Yeah, if Tia was 100 points clear at the end of the first day, I'd have probably not bothered watching the rest of the women's because what's the point? 10 different winners. Here we go. I assume, I don't know. I assume one of the Clydesdale guys is chatting. And this is why I love having you guys in the chat, because you just dropping knowledge bombs on our stats for days. But 10 different winners on both men's and women's sides.
Yeah.
Which is good. But it goes, the difficulty is, so obviously Tia was dominant in previous games, like last year was 6 events, I believe, she won. But even now, she only finished in the last 84. Well, at the time, it was 84 events. She'd never finished outside the top 20 in any workout. The chat is blowing up.
I'm just looking. So in 2021, Tia won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
She won 9 last year, was it?
Yeah.
9. Fair enough.
And in 2020 as well.
Out of 14?
Yeah, there were more events, yeah. And then she only won 2 this year. So, that's Laura Horvath won 2, Brandon won 1, Hayley Adams won 2, Lucy Campbell won 2.
Yes.
And then Ariel Lowen, Alexis Reptis, Ellie Turner, Gabriella Magawa, and Danny Spiegel all won 1. So, that's a real good mix of winners. So I think it was a fun watch. So first impressions are, I think Boz, I think when Dave Castro got fired, people were like ready to burn it all down, right? And they were like, the games, like boycott the games, they're going to be terrible. Like, and there was also that idea of who, like, oh, I feel sorry for whoever has to step into Dave's shoes, because no matter what they do, no one is going to be happy. And actually, generally people were happy. Like, people enjoyed it.
I agree. So I'm just reading in the comments. Lucy was awesome. So I'll be honest, I felt like there were too many gaps in Lucy's game before the games. In Lucy's sort of there were too many holes in her sort of complete package. She completely. I picked her anyway because I knew she was definitely going to win whatever was the swim event. I knew she was going to win that.
That's interesting though. Well, yeah. When we get to swim event, maybe we'll mention something about that, because you're like saying you knew she was going to win the swim event, and then they kept telling us that it wasn't going to be won by the best swimmer, and then actually in the men's field it wasn't won by the best swimmer, but in the women's, like, definitely her getting out that far ahead of everyone else gave her a massive advantage.
Yes, huge.
But in the men's side, I guess maybe just because generally they can pull the ski erg a lot harder.
Yeah.
Like, even though Yonakoski got out with a lead on everyone, he's just not like big enough to hold off someone like Roman. Like, that was the problem, right? Anyway.
No, and that was the difficulty that I found, and I agree with Elisa, who actually, Elisa, I saw you in the comments on Savan's podcast as well, and I thought they were great, and on the games as well. So yeah, giving you, I love it when you give you 2 pennies worth, especially in our comments. So thank you very much. But yeah, having seen Lucy on a ski erg before, though, like, not that she's not good on a ski erg, but she is not the best on a ski erg. Like, she'll hold her own.
Yeah, she's not Roman.
I think even yeah, exactly. Like Roman, right? And that's where, like,
but I think she had a bigger lead. So I think she was so much better on the swim than everyone else, compared to Yonakoski, who was better on the swim, but not by as big a margin. Like, Roman was close to. So, and actually, this is my disappointment with the swim event. I know we're jumping all over the place. Is just that we didn't like get to see Roman, for example. Like, Roman won a swim event, but we didn't get to see him like smash a massive swim. Does that make sense? So like that, I would have been more interested to see the performance that Roman put up on like a big swim. Or, to be honest, even if you had to do that pool thing, I would have made a few tweaks to that. That's probably one of the events I was a bit like, let's see what happened there. But let's jump back to day one.
Okay.
So we started with the bike.
So long ago.
It does feel like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does.
So the bike to work, which was what was it? 75, wasn't it? 75 toaster bar, 5 mile bike ride, 75 chest to bar, 5 mile bike ride for some people.
Oh, I wish we'd have. I was going to message you and go, "Can we go live tonight, please?"
Just to talk about that.
Just to talk about that, because that was an absolute show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just to say, in lawn chair leaderboarding, we both were the champs of that. If you weren't doing lawn chair leaderboarding, you must do it next year. I picked Hayley Adams to win that event because she was always going to win that event. She's a ninja and she's got an engine, like, done.
Yeah.
And she doesn't cheat.
Like who?
Well, apparently, like Ricky Garrard says everybody in the chat. Wow.
Yeah. So that was funny because that was something that I said in the video I made, because it was interesting that, like, before everyone had sort of, it seemed like everyone had forgiven Ricky this redemption story. And then as soon as it looked like maybe he'd done, he's cheating again. He's cheated before, he's cheating again, isn't he? Yeah, you can't trust Ricky. You're like, wow.
Ricky the cheater.
That's crazy. But what's funny is, like, the logic that people use is sometimes like, I really enjoyed, and actually people like Yash and Elise and ones like that, I think I first sort of got to speak to all these people during semi-finals in the chats, like, and Bruce Wayne and ones like that. That's where we used to chat, was in the semi-finals, and the chat was great. Like, semi-finals chat was brilliant. Games chat was awful. It was like, go Gee.
Like, Gee is not.
There was just Brazil flags flying up all the time. Yeah. What does R mean?
Oh, mate, I was having so much banter with the CrossFit Games on that. R for ramen.
There was also when they on day one, when they like postponed some of the events, they put TBD, and there are people asking what TBD stands for.
It's an endurance version of CBD.
Yeah. So it was just like ridiculous. But the logic of, he got off like X number of chest to bar behind like Yonakoski. So there's no way he could have caught up him. But you do think it's possible that Yonakoski could have got that much further ahead. Like, so when he came in and he managed to overtake him, you actually think he should have been like an entire lap behind that. So think how many other people would have got in before Ricky, that would have been off the chest bar after him, that were not as good on a bike as him. Like, I get that you think he's cheating, but your logic, your logic of him being some chest bars behind just does not make sense.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, there's no possibility that he could have just absolutely sent it on the last bike ride.
Yeah.
Oh no, that can't have possibly been the case. Or
even then there was the run with the bike. You could see that Ricky was on one side of the stadium and Janikowski was on the other side. And they had to push the bike for that bit. And Janikowski fell over.
And Janikowski was in Clydesdale Media's hotel.
Yeah, and I heard they'd spiked his drink. So that's...
Mate, you can't throw things around like that.
Yeah, well, he can use this. If he pops, he can use this clip.
Ricky isn't cheating this year, apparently. Elise says he's learned.
Yeah. But
they're all cheating though, right? We're not opening that can of worms right now.
Yeah. I knew he'd win it too, Claire. That's why I picked him for launch air leaderboarding for that event. That was
exactly. He was always going to win that event. Janikowski, he's great. I mean,
Janikowski put up an incredible fight, and also because I had Janikowski on as part of my draft as well, I was feeling like, oh man, have I put the wrong one of my athletes out for this at a certain point? Because he was, but a big issue was also just the view that you had on the live stream, like the fact that no one saw Ricky. Not just nobody saw Ricky pass Janikowski. Nobody saw Ricky on that final ride. Basically, they just did not show him. So
I think that's a fair enough from the broadcast point of view. If all of the drama is going on inside on the field, like inside the stadium, because like these two guys have come in and we don't quite know what's going on, and like we're showing them and they're like, but I did 5 laps. Did I do 4?
Oh, but yeah, I get that for like literally him overtaking them. But if at any point during the 5 laps Janikowski did, we'd just seen, oh, and look, here's Ricky not that far behind him, then you would believe that, he must have gone full send in the last few meters, caught him, took him on the run. Like that would make sense. But because you just stuck a camera on Janikowski and followed him around for 5 laps and then shifted to Lazar when he ran in prematurely, it's just... The funny thing is the fact that Lazar got a worse time than Spencer because he realized he'd done 4 laps and tried to go back out. And if he'd just run to the finish line,
he was like 3 or 4 places back, wasn't he?
Anyway, that was the bike to... and I think the most disappointing thing about that whole biking event thing was that was Hayley Adams' win, right? So Hayley Adams, that was her first ever event win at the CrossFit Games. And yet no one was talking about it because everyone was talking about what happened on the men's field. Like poor Hayley, she just cannot catch a break. She just...
Well, that's difficult, isn't it? Claire's saying the media was awful.
Claire, you spelled Jason wrong, but that's fine.
But your one video that you posted in the last however many days? 2, sorry. 2.
I think I've done 3 now.
Not since the games started.
What have I done? Rick? Oh no, maybe 2. You're right.
2.
I've been having a
mate. Trust me, I'm
an avid back and forth with someone today. Let's get this out now that you've just mentioned videos. So I don't know if you've had seen the little disagreement I'm having with someone in the comments section.
I have. Your clickbaity titles. Goodness me.
Yeah. So I just watched now the video that Tia put up. So like on Tia and Shane's YouTube, it's something like it's like she won. What next? And guess what never gets said in the video? What next? Yeah, just never mention what's next. They're just talking about relaxing after the event, like decompressing kind of thing. And I really wanted to go and tell this person he should go and watch their video so we can...
Yeah, why don't you comment? It was as if... So I'm just... Sorry, this is a very quick aside, but because I don't want to talk about Jason's videos all night. But Jason, I was like... I think I wrote something in the comments anyway. But it's like the guy had never watched a YouTube video before. Like, go see Craig Ritchie. Go see even Siobhan. Like, I would love Hiller, like anybody.
The thing is, though, I don't want the argument to be go and look at like those guys. I literally, in a video that I spent the whole time talking about whether or not Tia retired, I titled it Tia retired? Question mark. Like, it's a question. Did she retire?
Yeah.
This is what Sean Woodland said.
And
This
I
is what
think,
Tia said.
well, and exactly. And I think that you pitched it exactly right. I think that's the end of that. Go and watch Jason's video. It's very clickbait titling with a question mark. But bear with
Daniel
it.
cheated too. That got no coverage.
Yeah, well, I was astounded that it got no coverage. To be honest, Daniel was the only one they caught.
Yeah,
there could have been anybody could have done that. You wouldn't. How would they know? They don't. That's a problem. But I think, yeah, going back to the media was awful. Thank God for Savan. That is an interesting point because Bosman could have gone on any form of CrossFit Games, any form of the CrossFit Games media. So I guess if you're saying the media was awful, it just wasn't there. Boz could have gone and talked to anybody.
yeah,
but
I
Savan
think
got the exclusive, I guess.
Just when you think about maybe who's in the comments, you might want to say the official media from CrossFit that they were putting out was terrible. Good job there were other people there doing their own thing, creating content that we could view. So, all right, Clydesdale, I got you back.
Clydesdale bringing in the beans. Danielle was on every poster in Madison.
Yeah, yeah, she's like the new Sarah. You know, just like
no, she's
just
not.
I mean, she's probably got more. Well, I'm gonna say this. She's got more potential than Sarah, right? So
we said it.
Yeah. So I think like on that side, maybe not, but in the fact that she just gets so much, it's always that kind of like, is the hype more than what they achieve, right? And then like Tia never got any hype until she just kept winning. So the hype has always been relevant to, you know, like equal to what she deserves. Whereas other athletes have had a lot of hype around them, but they haven't lived up to it. So, and that's all I've got to say on biking. I want to talk about the skill speed medley.
I'd like to talk about that too. I think it was brilliant. Apart from one thing.
The cuts.
No.
Oh, okay. What?
The double under crossover. I think that's a dumb movement. Dumb.
Yeah. What would you?
I'm happy for people to disagree. I thought it was dumb.
Yeah.
I was just looking up. So Clydesdale Danielle looked lost by the end. I agree. Again, sorry, we're talking about Danielle Brandon a lot, but I love her like middle finger, don't give a fuck attitude. That which is fine if you're at the top, like if you're number one. So like Tia, she doesn't. She doesn't openly, but she's potentially like could have that. I didn't give a fuck attitude because I've won the game 6 times. Get over yourself, like, you know. And yeah, I don't normally talk like that. By the way, I'm not normally a potty mouth, but I'm giving you the way that it boils down. But she did. Like last event was just like, and yeah, just that last day. I don't know what happened to her on the last day. She just, as you say, guys, she just got lost. Also, we've got Sarah's 2 medal. I was just looking that up as
2015, 2016.
Yeah,
they're also the same 2 years Catherine won. She wasn't at the games. She didn't manage to beat Elisa Fuliano at Sid. So end of discussion on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like the thing is that yes, Sarah had tremendous potential that she hasn't fully realized, and now, you know, she didn't make it to the games.
But she does have her own clothing line at WIT.
Well, there you go.
Danielle Brandon does have her own clothing line at RAD.
Well,
that's interesting. Claire coming in with the beans, but let's go. Brandon needs podium supplements, so she won't podium.
I think she could have podium with Cutler. just from a mindset point of
I'm
view.
guessing this is Daniel Brandon. Now that is
Yeah.
interesting. That is interesting because from what I've never really interacted or seen. Yash is in the comments again. We'll come to that in a minute. I've never really seen much about Cutler, and having seen him on the Savan podcast, I was a bit like, okay, maybe obviously there is something to you. There is something to you because you're training elite athletes.
Well, I mean, he did come from Grid, so he was at Grid League first. So
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he actually?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I think what's interesting about Cutler is like he's still. I think it's maybe his most recent interview, like pre-games with Savan, and he was very, he's still like a huge like supporter of Danielle by the sounds of things, and it seems like this was a decision, and he talks about it as if it's like a decision that was not necessarily what they thought they were going to do, but they did it for like the good of underdogs. So I wonder, I don't know what the situation was like. What was interesting is that she was in the same like tie break for the sandbag event as Alex Kazan, and they hugged afterwards because before she looked like she was staring daggers at her, and I thought, oh, maybe there is something like still there, kind of thing.
Yeah, but she just
and then as soon as like they finished that bit, she's hugging her, and I was like, oh, okay, so they must still be, still be friends. So I don't know, like I don't know what the situation is. I don't want to speculate too much on that. It is crazy to change your coach like that close to the game, so maybe that's what messed her up. But I don't know if if that hadn't happened, she would have podiumed. I mean, if we start going down that route, like there's a lot of people that maybe.
Yeah.
But that being said, Ricky Garrard is with Cutler and he podiumed. So, but then Roman and Ricky are both with Snorri. So maybe it's the Snorri influence. But then again, Snorri's also
Solvi
Sarah.
Sigurd, the daughter, is also with Snorri, and she did not come anywhere near the podium, unfortunately, because she is a lovely person.
Yeah. I liked the skill speed medley. The only thing is, I just wish they hadn't done the cuts. I'd have just liked to have seen. I'd have just liked to have seen everyone go through it because I think the reasoning was, let's not embarrass everyone by them not being able to do these last things. But like there were definitely athletes that probably would have done better in like Brent Fikowski posted up almost immediately after him doing the crossover double unders. And he was like, on his post, he was like, oh, if I was better at pegboards, I could have shown off my party trick or something like that. So like he could have done really well in that third part, but he didn't get there because of because it was a pretty harsh cut. And, and especially with having to do everything unbroken, there was like absolutely no room for error. And then you got cut.
That's the point. But that's the point though, right?
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I don't know.
I loved the cuts for that event. I absolutely loved it. Mainly because otherwise T would have had it wrapped up probably by the end of day 2.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know.
She gets another. She got what, 20 points in that event?
Yeah, but I don't know how well she would have done on.
She was sat in
on the other
30
bit.
something. She wasn't. No, she wasn't that low, was she? She was sat in 18th at the end of the first day.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point because actually, people were very like this was kind of one maybe why people were very harsh on the programming after day 1 and looking at someone like Tia being so low on the table. But then when you add the Thursday, and where she finished, and if you remember that should have actually all been one day, she would have finished the day much, much higher. So you can't look at half a day's programming and say, well, that was the first day and look how bad it was because only these specific athletes. Like that cut probably feels more harsh because of how few events there were. If there'd also been 2 scored events before it, then then like I mean 2 other, because there was the bike, and then there would have been 2A, 2B, And then you'd have been like, oh yeah, well, I mean, they've had a chance to build up a buffer of points that they can afford to lose. But at this point, it's like every point counts so much because you've got so few. So it would seem more. That being said, I mean, the 2 rookies I'd picked for my fantasy fitnessing thing that were my like dirt cheap picks both made it to the top 5 on that event. So I can't complain too much about the cuts because that was good.
No, decent.
And Elisa Fuliano did an extra pirouette turn on her first round and still won.
And still won.
So that's great. Yeah.
I had her.
Claire was saying if they'd announced it before, like everyone would have been able to do it. And I guess that's the point, isn't it? They want to see how quickly they can adapt on the fly. But what's funny is apparently no one was practicing that like out the back before, because the reasoning was, well, if we get there, we'll, there's like no point in trying to master that now. Like if we get there to that stage, then probably we'd be able to do it, kind of thing. But anyway, but you can guarantee that now they're all going home and practicing it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but they won't program it next year.
They might program many more.
They won't see a repeat of that next year. The question is, why couldn't there have been triple unders? And I think Boz talked about that in the Savant on the Savant show. So we won't cover that, but it could have been triple unders. People have been practicing those, especially elites.
Maybe that's why it wasn't triple unders. Because I think the thing is, and this was very much kept coming out across the days, was games athletes. So games athletes are not going and training CrossFit. They're training to win at the games, and they think they know what they're going to see, and they think they know the progression, right? Single unders, double unders, triple unders. I'll start practicing my triple unders, so when they show up, I'm ready. Throwing in the crossover is like, we've made it more complicated, but not in the way you expected, and therefore you haven't been able to kind of get a leg up on the game by just training for what you think is coming. I thought that was very good. So I actually think it was like when you take a step back and you look at the reasoning behind all the programming, you see like the bigger picture. And I mean, should we even mention how many times the broadcast team mentioned Greg Glassman or the Journal? Like we went from pretending he didn't exist to acknowledging him and all that he's done, and like, oh, go back and read the Journal. He was talking about these things 5-10 years ago. Like, oh wow, suddenly we're allowed to say that.
Suddenly we're allowed to mention Voldemort again.
Yeah, I also have a little clip that I'm ready to cut out at any point where Chase refers to CrossFitters, and I was honestly, got that ready for next time Sam tells me you'll never hear anyone at CrossFit say CrossFitter. And I'm like,
yeah, he shouldn't be saying that. He shouldn't be saying that. He shouldn't. He shouldn't. Our country manager says that is not a thing you should say. Our European manager says that's not a thing you should say.
Good job there in America.
He should not be saying that. I know it's semantics. I know that's the point, but it's still a point. Yeah. But what do I know?
What I love is organizations that try to control what people can say, try to dictate speech. That always ends well. Right.
The problem. So the reason I need to finish why this is important, right? Because it waters down, and this is the argument, the way it was put to me, right? It waters down what CrossFit is. Okay, so a footballer plays football, right? So that's allowed, and I understand that a CrossFitter does CrossFit, but CrossFit is not football. CrossFit is not a sport, it's a methodology, right? First and foremost, the number one thing is CrossFit is a methodology. So you're not a CrossFitter.
Okay.
You follow the CrossFit methodology.
If you paint, you're a painter, but paint's not a sport. Painting's not a sport.
You're only proving my point.
Claire's saying it's a sport. And she's laughing.
It is a sport, but it came out of a methodology.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean okay. So you can call the people at the games CrossFitters then, but you just can't. You can't call people that train in a box CrossFitters then.
Oh, well,
I'm quoting what was told to me.
You can if they do the Open, because then they've done the first stage of that competition.
There you go. Then they're CrossFitters while they're doing the Open.
kids teams pick this as your sport.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
No, don't. Go and play a team sport.
Yeah.
Go and play a team sport and learn the rules of engagement with other people. And
Go
then
and play a team sport. I'm pretty sure Rich Froning's already putting together the next teams, so there'll be some spaces.
We must start calling it a sport. I'm really sorry. I disagree. I'm happy to be wrong, but I disagree. We can't keep calling it a sport. To call it a sport, it needs to be. We need to. It's young. It's so young. I've opened a can of worms and I can't close it again now.
Join a CrossFit team. Yeah. Failing that, there's find a grid league team. But
absolutely.
Okay, let's move on.
Let's shelf that. Highlights. What was your highlight? If you have to pick two, you can only have two.
Two highlights of the whole games. Yeah. All right, so we managed to discuss a few things that happened on Wednesday, and now we're just going highlights of the whole thing.
We'll be here for another 35 minutes. We've only done 2
because we keep getting distracted. Okay, well let me run through all the other things like the capital. Let's
run through.
Hold on, I'm going to run through everything really quickly. Elizabeth Elevated was interesting. Doing the dips on the bars was a good change. Seeing how that just blew people up and they weren't expecting it to be that hard.
I couldn't work out that one. I couldn't work out why professional sports people that partake in CrossFit or CrossFitters, commonly known as, couldn't do a kipping dip.
Yeah, I think it's just the it's literally just that thing where you get on you're doing something you do all the time and you do it with something slightly different and you forget like, oh, I can do what I do over here like. It's just sort of that part of the brain switches off. Then we had the shuttle to overhead that was scored as 2 parts, which was annoying because I thought about the athlete I wanted to use on that, thinking of what their combined score would be, and then we had to put in 2 separate athletes for the leaderboarding, which messed me up. But that was good, and yeah, good to see some kind of people lifting. It was interesting to see who was started failing reps that they just couldn't do, and even like Velna just start failing reps. That was interesting. The capital. Want to talk about that?
I'd love to.
Do you want to just talk about Rebecca Fuselier?
Yeah, let's do that. Well, I think that was probably one of the better events of the games. I think I'm echoing in your microphone. It's just me. Hello. No, not anymore. The capital. I think that was arguably the best, most functional fitness element of the games. That was CrossFit. That is pig flips. I need to push this thing from here to here and get it away from my house. Then I need to run to my buddies. I need to run to the shops, get some shopping, carry it 200 meters down the road. Then I need to pick up my kid and carry him all the way to the capital. Like that's that is an event that you might see in everyday sports.
Yeah.
Are you laughing at Claire's? The teams
laughing at Claire's comment
because they picked it as their sport. Yeah, it's not GCSE choices. We're not taking GCSEs and
not yet.
That'd be interesting.
And then obviously like the highlight was the whole community what's interesting is that the highlight that's clear was the whole community gathered behind her, like cheering her on. The highlight, I think the thing that's really commendable that wasn't mentioned, apart from I think Boz said it to Savan when he asked him if Boz had organized getting people to kind of come out and be behind her, was that it was an open track. So anybody could have just walked onto the track at any time. And yet you had all of these fans just there without anybody stopping them, just being there, respectful, letting them pass and things like that. And I think and what I find amazing is that is in direct contrast to the fans you had on YouTube that were just vile. So it was like, oh, look at this amazing community, how loving they are, and they care about the athletes, and they're such wonderful people. And then they're like, cheater, drugs, cheat, hate you, and
yeah, but a lot
burn
of
it all
those
down.
people
And you're
aren't
like,
part
"Ooh."
of the community, are they? Let's be honest. They're just a bunch of people who chat shit on YouTube. I mean, chat rubbish on YouTube.
Right.
This is not kid friendly tonight. Sorry.
Let's jump over to Up and Over.
Yep.
Which was, yeah, that was some
It was okay.
big old box jumps there. Like Colton Mertens jumping his height and more.
I felt bad for the man.
He looked comfortable, to be honest, compared even to others.
Colton Mertens, his name is Mud at the moment. With me, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, why is that? What had you picked him for?
Yeah, I picked him for the sandbag ladder. The guy literally throws pigs around for a living. Like, he can't pick up a sandbag.
Mhm.
Honestly,
They don't wriggle enough.
Yeah, apparently.
Then Echo Press. Oh, that was good. I had Jason Hopper for that. That was good. He got 97 points, so that was.
I wasn't cool. I wasn't keen on the
handstand push-ups.
The wall facing handstand push-ups. I mean, it was cool. It was a cool kind of gimmick.
Just needed like a little mat or something for their head to touch. Just something to make it clear when they'd because the judging did look probably of all the things that week, that was the one where the judging looked the most like suspect. And that's
because they all found out at the same time as the athletes, right?
I guess not suspect, but kind of inconsistent. Like inconsistent between judges and inconsistent between a judge and one athlete. That he was like, that's a no rep. You're like, okay. And then the next rep looks identical and it's fine. And you're like, hold on, what's going on here? So, but it's probably not, it's not necessarily what they've been training. It's good to see it. People can start to prepare for it now, but that it is what it is. Jump down to the swim. We've talked about that a bit.
To repeat, although we're going to go back because we had that was a ski erg event for sure, said Clydesdale Media, not a swim event. It depends. That was for the men, it was certainly an erg event. For the women, it was arguably it was an erg event, obviously, because you were scored on the erg, but for the women, the better swimmers did better.
I think Claire may have said about there needing maybe to be more calories. I think, I think it started with too few. It just seemed like the first 2 rounds seemed kind of unnecessary. And again, in the comments, so much fun looking at everyone being like, oh, look, they're all tied for first. And you're like, yeah, they're all tied for first because they're pulling a certain amount of calories.
Yeah.
And then waiting. Like, that's why they're all tied for first. And it wasn't until it was like the max effort. What I think might have been nice was, I was thinking about this, is either to have had like another implement on the other side. And so maybe like you could have had to swim like 3 lengths and it was changing up each time. So it was like calories on one side and then max something else on the other side. Does that make sense? So you could have made the swim a bit longer in between. Yeah. The other thing I thought could have been interesting is if the distance of the swim increased as well as the ski.
Well, the difficulty is though, and this is the bit that I really liked about that event, is that everybody did it.
Yeah, well, that's
every single category did that event, and they posted it on main site with adaptations to it as well, so you could even do it at home. I think there was a variation with burpees and air squats or something. I can't remember the exact workout.
Although I do find that a bit like, don't say here's an event everyone can do. If you can drag a ski erg into your local swimming pool, you can actually do it as written. Otherwise, here's like variations, because it would be not like if you programmed, like there's plenty of other events you could program that everybody could do, like just by going to any box.
Not everyone has a lake like Rich.
No, apparently
you could just swim in a lake and put the ski erg out next to the lake.
I think the people that have got the lake don't have the ski erg, and the people that have got the ski erg don't have the lake. You've got to pick which one you want.
You could have an icy lake and then actually ski.
Yes,
around. That'd be crazy. But the thing that frustrated me the most in that event was there should have been, for the males, they should have been more calories to start. I think probably I think maybe even a 12-calorie start would have made it really taxing for them.
Yeah, because then the swim, then the bigger guys that can just go ham on the calories are gonna suffer in the swim, right?
Yeah.
I think you need that would have, you know, but
it was good.
fine. It was, but it
I
was, you
didn't
know,
hate it, and
no,
Lucy
no,
won, so that's all I care
yeah.
about.
And then we had hat trick. Funniest thing about the hat trick event was hearing them explain the name hat trick, and it's because Adrian Bosman, you know, he's Canadian, and in hockey, you have to score 3 goals for it to be a hat trick. I'm pretty sure 3 to be a hat trick is like universal across
Cricket,
any
rugby,
sport that
football
uses the word hat trick. It's 3, right? Like, what are we talking like? I don't know. Sometimes these guys. But that was the high wall ball shots, the dumbbell snatches. I mean, okay, Guy was like insane on that. That was so.
It's just that was how fast you could dumbbell snatch, really.
Yeah, which apparently
because you can't make wall ball. Like, I mean, you can go a little faster on wall balls, maybe, but you can't make them like ridiculously faster than anyone else.
You
But
can
unless
save
you miss,
they could literally save a tiny bit of time just by that kind of starting to go down as they catch, like so not catching and going down, but you were talking like fractions of a second, and then it is the time for the ball to travel up and travel back
and
down.
we're talking over 20. So even if you saved a fraction of a second, like that's maybe a second, 2 seconds,
and you may have lost that seconds on the sprint anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then it was just how fast could they get? How fast could you snatch and stabilize and not get no reps? Roman getting no reps for only hitting one head of the dumbbell on the floor. We've talked about this. We've talked about this with Bosman. But in your training, make sure both heads are hitting the floor because that's usually the standard.
Yeah. If you want to listen to any of the podcast that we had with Boz, that's in our back catalogue, so go find it. We're on Spotify, and it's not on YouTube, I don't think, actually.
No.
That was before the days we were live on YouTube.
Yeah.
That was before the days we were live.
Yeah. No, before we were live, but we might have uploaded the video. It might be on there. It might be a video on there. I don't know. Have a look. If you find it, great. If not, it's somewhere. It was also
I'll find it for you and tag it in the description.
Yeah. Then sandbag ladder.
Don't talk to me about that. Colton Man's like is not my friend.
Yeah, but I picked Danny. So it was a great event for me.
Yeah, screw you. I knew you'd pick Danny as well.
Danny, not Danny. I was going to say Danny was amazing. Danny was amazing. That event, that was such a great event because, again, in the chat, people were a bit like, oh, boring. Oh, what? No, where's the barbell? That was so exciting to watch. Like, that was as much fun as watching, like, a snatch or a clean, like any other year.
Well, because I guess a snatch or a clean, like, you either hit it or you don't.
Yeah,
there's no like in the middle there, or there's a very small fraction of in the middle.
And
area.
Also,
whereas with the massive sandbag, like you can inch it, like, and some of them were literally inching it up onto that shoulder.
That was cool, and that they could basically go until they decided they just could not do it. Because sometimes with like you say with a snatch, there's a weight that they're like, I've hit this before, and then they just miss it. They just miss it, and it's just like you missed it, and you get 1 attempt or 2 attempts or whatever.
Yeah. At Clydesdale Media, the roof almost came off the building. I can imagine. You could literally hear the screaming through the microphones of the commentators at that point. Yeah. It was so
And also
good.
Think about how much time it takes to do a clean.
Yeah.
Like you do a clean and there's like that, like the pull and the not catch and receiving the bar is really quick. There can be the time it takes someone to kind of grind out from the bottom of the squat. But then, like, that's it, right? It's over. Compared to the time it was taking them to get that bag stabilized on the shoulder. So it's just more, it's like more anticipation of, are they going to make it? Are they not going to make the clean? It's like, they didn't make it.
Well, but it's also like the clean is something you practice every day.
Yeah.
Just that is, I mean,
the sandbag is something the majority of them practice, but not at that weight.
No.
That's where it's like, you know, you're good at this, but how good are you? So that was cool. That was a great event. I loved it. Sorry about Carlton, but I loved it. The alpaca. I know that Yash had something to say about that event.
Amy said Carlton couldn't get his arms around the bag. I mean, that I believe. He is only a small person. Sorry, Jace.
No, I was just moving on to the nearly poured my
I was apologizing for you being also a small person.
The
alpaca.
That hurts. That hurts.
You might need the use of an alpaca. Should you know?
Yeah.
But
Yash
I
has put
really,
it as
again,
one of his favorite free events.
yeah, I'm interested though because it was good, but was it that good? I mean, Yash just put it as one of his favorite events because he just loves a kettlebell.
He does. I've
just
noticed in the
loves
comment section, no matter what the topic is, somehow Yash will bring in kettlebells and how if they were using kettlebells, it would benefit them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't get to sleep. You know what you need to do? Kettlebell swings before bed. That'll get you to sleep. Yeah.
His comment earlier was the kettlebell stuff was mostly technique. Notice how ex-Soviet Union nation athletes dominated those.
And then he goes to say, like, for example, Laura Horvath.
Yeah, Laura won it too.
Yeah.
Was Hungary ex-Soviet nation? It must be.
Yeah.
Geography and history, not two of my big areas, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, but it was an interesting twist. You know, it was an interesting, again, like they've all pushed a sled, but it was having it like a slightly different one at a different angle, the weight fluctuating throughout. Like, it was very good. If me and Kleiser can do it RX, it's probably not great.
Oosh. Woo.
I have more confidence in the Clydesdale Media team than they have in themselves. So, back 9. That was the yoke. Back 9, back broken. The yoke.
Well, that is exactly what I've just been playing football with the head coach at my place, and to watch it was really good. But I described the workout, and he was like, "What? So they compress the spine, and then they compress the spine, and then they compress the spine, and then they did it in reverse." That doesn't seem like a good thing to do at the second to last event.
Yeah.
Like that, and the yoke was so heavy. And the cleans were like pretty darn heavy. And those deadlifts, they're the heaviest deadlift they've ever had in the games. Like as a in a workout. Obviously,
I picked Vellner for that event. I thought he was going to do really well, you know. He loves a deadlift, that guy.
Yeah. Well, the alpaca, going back, the Clydesdale guys are saying the alpaca put the ropeless leg climbs in, and the ropeless leg climbs. No, that wouldn't be very good.
The ropeless leg climbs would have been very interesting.
Oh,
that would have been easy for Colton if he's only got to climb the length of his leg. That's a short distance.
Yeah, if they'd have switched those around, you're right. The back 9, if that was the last event, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But I quite like Jackie Pro as the last event. I think the disgusting part of that was the time cap on the beginning, the row.
The row,
baby. But then again, it's that like strength endurance stuff. Like Roman's 1K time is like 2:30 or something.
Yeah. I think though that's a great example that has played out throughout all of Boz's programming, like in general, has been like, and particularly in the last chance qualifiers and then at the games, these very specific time caps that have been either designed to force you to go a bit faster than you're comfortable. Like everyone can do this and everyone can do this in a good time, but can they do it in this time and then do this thing straight after? Like that's been a kind of common thing. Or these exaggerated time caps that it's like, oh, you're all going to finish this. Like you are all going to finish this and you're going to hurt because of that. And there is no escape for you. Like the clock is not going to run out on you. So I think he's really... Claire is also someone saying the alpaca should have been the final event in the Coliseum, 3 legless, not 2. Well, she is so specific on her critiquing of Boz's programming.
I think he might be on the phone to you next time. I know for a fact that he watches this podcast because he watched his own one. So we know that. Yeah. So he's definitely watched it at least once.
Oh, Clydesdale almost got hit by a crazy driver.
Epic. Please don't drive and watch the podcast at the same time. That is not a legal thing to do.
No. Well, they got hit. They didn't almost hit someone. They almost got hit. Somebody probably overheard this riveting conversation and were like, oh, I really want to know what they're talking about. Let me get closer.
Yeah.
So just send them the link, guys. Just send them the link. Say, look, drive safe, but here's the link.
Highlights. So the programming was a highlight for me. The main reason was because there was just no BS. It was just like, this is the program. No, like, ooh, we're gonna put some spicy sauce and this and that, and oh, look at this. It's like, okay.
That almost feels like you're saying because there was no Dave Castro.
No,
reading between the lines.
That's not what I'm saying.
But it's not what you're not
but
saying.
Boz, I like the fact that Boz is very matter of fact. It's just like, this is the workout. This is why we're doing it. This is why we're gonna make you finish this work, like the capital. This is why you have to finish.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how long it takes. We could leave you out there on the street till tomorrow if you want.
Yeah.
But everybody's doing this, so you need to do it. That I really like that. As you say, the time caps were egregious for some events to make people go faster. Because he was like, oh, these bars. I was listening to the Savant podcast, and he was like, the athletes were like, oh, these bars are so light, and he was like, prove it. Like, oh, okay,
yeah.
That's just like the ballsy stuff, because it's not like, it's just bang.
Claire says, in my head, I wanted the final workout to be called Castro. And it ends with you getting fired. That's like, you win the games, and then they say, well done, you can never come back.
Well done, you're fired. So that was a highlight for me. And Lucy, for me personally, Lucy winning 2 workouts was great. I'm 90% sure that she is humble enough to have gone into the games not assuming to win any.
No doubt. I think,
but striving to win one.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, like, few have, right? Like, when you really think,
like,
you can even when you're talking about like, oh, so and so's won the games and so and it's like, how many of them have even won events? Like, it's a handful of people, more than a handful, a couple of handfuls of people, but it's a real like feather in your cap that you can say, not only have I been to the games, I've won an event. So yeah, and also and she won 2. It's like not even 1, and 2 in a single games is even more.
Yeah,
because you can have someone who's like, I am the strongest man alive, and I've won 2 games events, and you're like, yeah, what did you win? The heavy lift 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
Got it. But winning 2 different events at the same games means you've
and there were 2 very different events as well.
Yeah,
and I mean, I suppose it was a machine to start.
Yeah, but it was also the fact that like it was in what I'm trying to think. Was she in the 3rd heat?
That's a big statement you just made there, Yash.
Lucy greater than Hayley Adams.
Lucy greater than Hayley Adams. Whoa, that's big. That is
well,
a big
it's
statement.
hard to say that because Hayley Adams also won 2 events
and finished higher in the table.
So
we're all about opinion here. So Yash, that is a valid opinion.
But maybe he's
an opinion that I love.
Maybe he's talking about her after event interviews.
Yeah,
in which case, yes, she seems more comfortable on the microphone than Hayley. So there you go.
Why not?
Maybe it's
why not? Give me some highlights, big man.
Oh, some highlights.
Just 2, in fact. You got 2.
Lucy McGonagall for the teens was epic. Kelly Field's final event was
true.
Brilliant.
I didn't get to watch any of their stuff, but mainly because I was time precious over the weekend. So I didn't get to watch any, but I will go back and watch some. Mainly because I'm going to see Kelly in September, so I need to at least know something about what she did at the games, and probably Lucy, in fact, as well. I'd imagine.
McGonagall. I don't know. I don't know if she compete. I don't know if she entered. Basically, that's
I mean, if she did, she'll probably win. Well, no, that's not even. If she did, she'll win. But
yeah,
that's whether she can do it. But yeah, 2 highlights, please.
2 highlights. Well, I think I mean, as much as I didn't like the swim event that much, what was interesting was that even the adaptive division had the same event, like it wasn't scaled for them, and they finished it. Like 2 of the adaptive athletes finished that event as well, because they the guy had said like, oh look, probably no one's going to finish this because the event isn't being scaled in any way for the adaptive division. So it's exactly the same as for the, the elites. And yet a couple of people were able to finish it, which is pretty incredible because, you know, we talk about them being great, but like being great doing exactly the same thing, like that is cool. I mean, I really did like that sandbag event. I just thought,
Yeah.
I think what I liked about it more than anything was it was a great misdirect. It was like, as soon as it was mentioned, it was criticized. And then I was seeing people be like, oh, actually, no, this is really good.
Yeah, cool. I'm into
And
that.
I think that's cool. I think I really liked seeing, and I mean, a bonus one was Elisa Fuliana doing the extra turn and still winning that heat. That was really cool, doing the pirouette on the handstand and still winning. Yeah, that was cool. And Claire has said that she didn't enter British Teens and Masters. Yeah, I didn't think I'd seen her name. Clydesdale saying 2 highlights: Nick Matthews and crowd's excitement that they were back. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. Yash is saying it was a simple but effective workout to test strength. I'm guessing he's talking about the sandbags.
Can you put this big, heavy thing on your shoulder?
And I love having the tie break thing as well. That's always fun to watch them, like, then, because it's especially that like 50-pound bag where you're like, oh, I've just lifted like a 200-pound bag and I'll just watch me launch this into the crowd. So that was good.
Go on.
Oh, and then I mean,
you got 3.
Well, I don't know if this is a highlight. I mean, Sean Woodland telling us that Tia's retiring.
Oh my gosh.
It's also pretty interesting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to know more about that, go watch Jason's video on YouTube. He talks about it in some detail.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I noticed, I didn't say in that video, but it's reminiscent of when Froning won his 4th. Do you remember that it was like a lunge event, and like the last 4 lunges, he had something to say like each lunge. Sean Woodland, it was like, oh, it's done it once, twice, 3, it's the 4th. Like he was kind of like counting them as he was going, and it's this very like famous sort of scene within CrossFit is Rich winning and Sean's voice over the top. And he did exactly the same thing with Tia, right? Every time she went to the top of the bar, it was like, for those last reps, it was, you know, she's done it this time. It's the 6th time, the final time, and gone. Oh, Claire.
Claire in the comments. You can't miss it. I assume she's talking about your video. It's full of clickbait.
It hurts me when you say that.
My max at 187 at the moment, having tested more than 200 before.
Yash is probably talking about
Yash is
kilos
talking about
as well.
Sandbags.
Because he's in the UK, he's not using pounds.
Yeah, the real numbers. Before we're coming to the end, there are a couple of things that I do want to talk about. The first one is Roman, because I did have an animated conversation with Amy and the Clydesdale guys about this, because CrossFit put out a statement on the 1st of March to boil it all down, basically saying that they wouldn't publish any flags or names for Russian athletes, not their names, obviously, but names of Russia. But they did. Roman Krenikov's first picture in a Noble jersey was had Russian Federation on the front. So myself and one of my friends shared it on Instagram, and I just wondered why nobody was talking about that, because I don't know about anyone else, but the war in Ukraine is currently it's pretty big on our news at the moment, and sanctions and things are all over the place. So I don't understand why you would post that as a thing on the 1st of March, not post anything else, and then do the opposite almost of what you've said in your post. That was a question more than, because there were other conversations that I've had with other people, like, is Roman pro-war? Then they stuck duct tape over it. They actually did. They blanked it. They just put white stuff over it. But yeah, it was like, is he pro-war? Is he this? Is he that? Like, is he, because he's renounced the war and stuff, according to interviews. I'd love to have him on here, but he doesn't speak English. So that's going to be pretty difficult. But yeah.
Oh,
well,
but what about
it's
the fact that
possible.
they said that both he, his wife, and his child have got like a P1 visa and can
5
spend the
years.
next 5 years in America? So that's interesting. Like, there you go.
Mm.
That's
again,
nice.
this is all news, and I guess they didn't want to overshadow whatever, but it's still news. My other
Yeah.
thing was Hiller.
Right.
Okay, Hiller meeting people in person, arguably, possibly for the first time, pulling lots of punches this weekend. Not getting on anybody really's case at the moment. And I don't know whether that was because he had to see people in person or whether he's just actually a nice guy. And I think maybe there's a possibility that he's just like actually nice. Or not, maybe not a complete douche. But I think he pulled a lot of punches. Don't touch my stick. I haven't watched that video in full, and I wish I had, but I didn't have time this afternoon. But Clydesdale Media have put out, this is hot off the press, Roman will be in the States now for 5 years. Well, that's, yeah. Okay, so Scott and Amy from Clydesdale are saying that Hillary's actually nice. I got that about him. I've warmed to him more recently. If anyone even cares, which maybe they shouldn't, but
yeah. I mean, he mentioned the Ricky Garrard video I put out, so again, I can't criticize too much. He keeps as long as he keeps mentioning my name, I've got to be nice.
I mean,
right?
I think him pulling punches is his way of saying, actually, maybe I should lay off some of this stuff a bit.
I don't think he I don't think it was necessarily so much him pulling punches as one. I don't think he had the opportunity to see nearly as much as he can see when he's at home. Like when you think of like the online stuff, he's got hours of time to like go back, watch it, review it, break it down, make something of it. He confronted a lot of people he criticized. Yeah.
That's really good. Well, that's good as well, though. If he confronted the people he criticized, like, good. Because as you say, like, he doesn't, and I think that's probably why, I assume that's why Clydesdale think he's actually nice, because he has a backbone.
The issue is you can't. So as long as he says things that are true, it's very difficult to then like have an issue with that, right? So you come up to her, oh, I didn't like you. It's like me going to you, I don't like that you said I had blue eyes. You're like, yeah, but you do. Like, you might not like that I've told people that, but it's it's a fact. It's not a secret. Anyone can see it. And but you drew attention to it. And you're like, well,
but also he obviously met some judges this weekend.
Yeah.
And he was aware that there were judges around him this weekend that, because he was real critical of Catherine Davis' daughter and the judge that was judging her at Sid. He did not do that for the handstand push-up event, the Echo, whatever it was, Echo Press event. And he said why he didn't do that. It's because he realized that everybody found out at the same time what the sorry, I was just reading the comments again. But he said what everybody sees the workout at the same time when it gets released at the games. So the judges are going to be just as aware as the athletes at that point.
Yeah. And I think you can be lenient on a new movement compared to like a deadlift that we've been doing for years, right?
Yeah. And Yash saying that the deadlifts at Strength in Depth were pretty abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say this on record, but imagine if two people that maybe are talking now had been there, and imagine if anyone had sort of said like, "Oh, I expect we're going to see a Hiller video later." Like,
imagine that.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you could imagine happening.
Yeah.
But you don't need to imagine, Ash, because I have no doubt you'll be at Strength in Depth next year. So we look forward to seeing you there. It was
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Clydesdale was saying I was in the pit for that, and it was hard to see that line, and I was a meter away from lane 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, but a pad would have been better.
Yeah, just something like that you could leave an indentation in just to
Mm.
see those lines. But overall, as we said, like I think when we first heard that Dave Castro wasn't going to be doing the games and the outcry and the uproar that kind of kicked off, it felt like this year there was a no-win situation. Like it was just a no-win scenario, right? There was no way anyone would be able to pull it off. And also in the lead up to the games, let's be honest, not great. Like a lot of issues. And like obviously Hiller highlighted a number of them. They weren't the only ones. There was a lot of weird stuff going on. Then there was all the like the drug tests seemed endless until they like constantly releasing more and more stuff that came out, like including another team from Sid popped. Did you see that? Like Mayflower did as well, but didn't get mentioned because they were in sick for whatever, so they weren't going anyway. No, 7th up to 6th after Aylesbury were out, but I mean, it just seemed like disaster after disaster. So I think people went into the games maybe without necessarily having high hopes. But then Boz started his little kind of podcast tour just before. He started dropping hints, dropping teasers, and he pulled it off.
I think
really.
that spot. Yeah, I think that's what Claire's sort of hit it on the nail in the head, in the comments. His engagement with the community via Savan was just brilliant. Now, during the games, that was true, but before the games, he did a whole round of podcasts. I mean, not ours. We didn't ask him to come on, to be fair. So, he's not going to ask us to come on again, I'm sure.
I'm going to beg.
Or maybe. We could have asked him for tonight, but whatever. But Boz is just a stand-up guy. Like, and I'm not saying that nobody else is, but he's so meticulous. He's a very meticulous person, and he likes to get everything just right. And you could see that. Like, he was there cycling the Route 1 last time at like 11 p.m. when he was on the Savan show, or
he also just understands what CrossFit is at its core.
Yeah,
and he loves it. And then you see him put that in, right? And so it's really hard at that point to criticize him and to like have issue, because you're kind of like, well, this is like, there's going to be few people. Like, I mean, the courage you have to say to Adrian Bosman, this isn't CrossFit, is like, wow. I mean, I wouldn't have the courage to tell him what is or isn't CrossFit. I'm pretty sure he knows what is and isn't CrossFit.
It's an interesting question. Do you think Boz programs back to front? You're going to have to clarify that. Do you mean
epic finishes all week?
Oh, so as in the way that people finish the event, and then he programs it back. So this is what I want it to look like when they finish, and then we go backwards.
I love Yash's comment. Yash says people only criticized him for broadening their narrow minds.
Yeah.
And what he said on like these podcasts he went on before the games was, this is going to change the way people program in their boxes, the way they like approach training and all of that. And absolutely, that people are going home now being like, okay, we can't just, if we're going to the games next year, we can't just go and do what we did every other year leading up to the games. Like, we need to make sure we're working on the fun. Basically, what you need to have is such a strong base in all the different elements that no matter how it's presented to you and like in what kind of twisted way you have to use that base, you've got such a big base that you can like find a way. And that's what you saw. Some people were just like, I'm really good at gymnastic movements, throw it at me. Like, what is it? Okay, we're going to do dips on the bar, and we're going to do like the what's it called? The
parallel walk. I'm going to call it a shimmy shimmy.
A shimmy shimmy. Yeah, you got to do a shimmy shimmy. And you saw people, like Velna crushed it. He's got the experience of doing that kind of thing. So he's got that base there. Bang. But that needs to be across the board, doesn't it? So,
and what he doesn't have a strong base in are celebrations. But we won't go into that.
More news.
Boz saying Boz programmed more new stuff. This is Yash. I actually do, which helps. Maybe I'll make it past the first round of the Open now. I'm not good at gymnastics. Okay at the rest.
Yeah. Well, let's see. You got some time to train now. Yeah. We'll see where we all stack up. Oh dear. Yeah. That's the only problem with it all now being over is like, oh no, it's all got to go back to the start, which is the only bit we're involved in.
It's the off season.
Yeah. Well, it's the off season, but there's some exciting stuff happening in the off season. No doubt we'll talk about that, or there'll be some videos made about that, or something will happen about that, I'm sure. Anyway, there we go. What a nice, fun rundown of the games. I'm glad we were able to keep Clydesdale company on their drive back. So, if nothing else, we've accomplished that goal, which is, I've heard the favorite place for people to listen to us is in the car on a drive. Usually it's after the fact and it's listening to the recorded version, but it's nice to see someone listening live. There we go, in the car. Right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, for jumping in the comments. We really appreciate that. We'll be back next week, hopefully with Tom, maybe if baby's feeling better. But
we'll try and get some guests as well.
Yeah, I reached out to a few people, but it was very last minute, and I think some people told me they were a little bit burnt out about talking about the games.
I'm hoping, I've said to the boys, I'm hoping to get Tudor Magda on at some point. His agent, Ken, or whoever looks after him, Ken, was messaging me from Instagram. So hopefully we'll get Tudor on, which will be really good.
Maybe he can get his coach on for us as well.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, that would be good. Right. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Go follow Clydesdale as well. They put up so much media from the games this week. Nice though that now the playing field gets leveled once again across different podcasts and media for those of us that are on the other side of the pond and can't just rock on down to the games and sit in the media pit. But now we're all back at home, so isn't that nice? But yeah, still the contacts they have is probably so maybe that's what we need to do. We need to start reaching out to Clydesdale and saying, can you book us some guests? You've got everybody's phone number, can you just call them for us?
Yeah. For a small handling fee, we'll do it.
It's like, Scott, we're finally going to let you come on the podcast, but you must bring someone with you. Here's a list of people we'll accept. Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Anyway, no, go and check out all the stuff they put out from the games, and go back and listen, I guess, to the Savan podcast to see some of the breakdowns there that were pretty interesting as well. Don't forget you can go and follow Tom at Chalking Fitness. I've no doubt he's got some posts coming out soon because of the number of UK athletes that did very well at the games in the different divisions. So potentially people that maybe slipped under the radar if we were just following the elites. And then, of course, you can follow Sam at La Roche Original. You can find me at Jason CF Media on Instagram or on YouTube as well. Don't forget that. And now
you've got all your subscribers you need to make money.
Yes, I do.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. I'm going to be making the pennies. All the massive amounts of copper coins. There we go. That's my YouTube revenue. Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, or watching, joining in the comments, and we'll see some of you, I guess, next week.
Ciao, bye.